Hi, thanks for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. And yes, we've had some amazing things that have just come up this past week and want to share with you all these wonderful stories, which are really true stories that really share and focus on so many positive things going on in the travel and cruise industry, of course. I like to focus on Good Ship Happens. One that just came up, and this is actually the third year they've done it, is something that was done by Norwegian Cruise Line. What they did was, and this is the third year they've done this, it's their annual giveaway Joy. And this is the third year they've done it. What they do is it's their Giving Joy contest, and it's a month-long program campaign launched during National Teachers Appreciation Week, which is actually May 2nd to May 6th of 2022 this year, as a way to really recognize deserving educators for their unwavering commitment to bringing joy to the classroom in different ways, and to celebrate these individuals, as well as kicking off their new ship, Norwegian Prima, which was going to be actually doing her first sailing from Galveston, Texas. She actually was christened earlier this year in Iceland, but they're moving her to the U.S. for sailings. And what they did was they actually did this wonderful show-stopping celebration. Special guests, of course, included Harry Sommer, who is the president and CEO of Norwegian Cruise Line, as well as godfather of one of their previous ships, the Norwegian Bliss, which is Elvis Duran, who's a radio and television personality, as well as Kelly Clarkson, the Grammy Award-winning artist. Yes, she was actually godmother of their Norwegian Encore, and she gave an exclusive concert too. What they did was 100 of these deserving winners were celebrated at this Norwegian's Giving Joy program on the Norwegian Prima's inaugural sailing out of Galveston, Texas. What they did was to include this Giving Joy Awards, Harry Sommer, the president CEO, actually unveiled 3 of the top grand prize winners. They received the most votes, and they were awarded with donations to their schools. Patricia Hosmer actually was awarded $25,000, and Teresa Schrager was awarded $15,000, as well as Anthony Stripe, who was awarded $10,000. Once again, this goes to their schools. But in addition to these donations to their schools, these grand prize winners also won a big surprise too, nearly $40,000 each in prize money, which is actually donated thanks to Norwegian Cruise Line's partners. But what a wonderful way to celebrate teachers, because they do so much for our students and our kids and their families too. But what they did was each of these winners, including the 100 finalists, actually won a free cruise for 2 people on an exclusive 5-night sailing on the Norwegian Prima, which actually departed earlier this last week, October 25th through October 31st. And it's really a wonderful example of Good Ship Happens in a whole different way, because you don't think about these things. And this is the third year that Norwegian Cruise Line has done this. And I really want to share more about Norwegian's Giving Joy, because it really does support for teachers across all of North America. And recognizing teachers for the unwavering dedication to inspiring students each day is just so wonderful too. And let's share more about this too, but just want to share that with you first thing, because once again, you don't think about cruise lines doing this, but they do. They do wonderful things. And as mentioned, this is the third year that they've done it on Norwegian Cruise Line, and just fantastic things too. Something else that came up is I actually had a chance to attend the International Traveler Conference. It was held in New York City and at Jacob Javits Convention Center. It started October 28th, just finished on October 30th, sorry, yes. But it was a great way to interact with different people. And the first day was for suppliers, media, travel advisors too. Then the second and third day was open to the public too, which is great. But they had different presentations. They had their trade show exhibitors right there, which is great, but a good way to really learn about what's really going on in the industry now more than ever. And I had a chance to attend the first day, which is great. But one thing that came up too is in the morning they had different workshops, presentations by different executives. But then what they do too is then on Friday, the first day, they actually did do a keynote presenter interview. Okay. And the keynote was actually done with Pier Francesco Vago. He's the executive chairman of the cruise division of MSC Group, and about his cruise line sustainability efforts, practices, how they've grown phenomenally in the past 10 years. And what they've done too is they're actually growing more home ports across the U.S., including Miami, Fort Lauderdale, New York City, too. Yes, New York. But once again, they're actually, with MSC Cruises, they're actually the biggest privately held cruise line in the world, and they really focus on sustainability in so many different ways, too. Also, what they're doing is they're launching a new cruise ship themselves, too, next year, Explorer Journeys. I'll talk more about that a little bit, but the point is, it really went back to what James Shillingworth, who was the chairman of the International Travel Conference, was pulling out from Pier Francesco. Because with the MSC Group, their parent company, they are still family owned, and their corporation is actually based in Genoa, Switzerland. But they actually have, besides MSC Cruises, and starting up their new luxury cruise line, Explorer Journeys in 2023, they actually have one of the largest container shipping companies in the world. They've had that in the family for close to 300 years. Yes. And they also have their own MSC Foundation, which I'll talk about in a minute too. But the point is, with that keynote interview, it was really great because James, who was the chairman, who was actually interacting, asking Pier Francesco questions, it was really good to get a pulse of what they're doing in different ways too. Because one thing I've seen a lot, and it's really being focused on by all the cruise lines, is they're really working on becoming more zero emissions. Okay, and the Cruise Lines International Association has been working with the cruise lines on this. Their deadline to hit this goal is actually in 2050. But cruise lines are really jumping on this like crazy, and it's important for people to know about this. Cruise lines, for instance, have eliminated plastic straws, single-use plastics, whatever, but also different protocols that they do too on board their ships to keep them very health and safety for the environment. And as mentioned, the sustainable issue is one thing that their ships are really working on too. Their ships are actually equipped with the latest, most efficient technologies. They've got advanced water treatment systems, waste management, as mentioned. They, along with other cruise lines, have eliminated single plastic straw things like crazy. They've got they're minimizing air emissions and also working on the LNG, which is liquefied natural gas, converting to this by 2050 is the goal for all the cruise lines that are going to be doing this. Also, they've got their own advanced water treatments, and as Pier Francesco was mentioning, we don't pollute the sea, and they're really working forward to really making their ships even more sustainable than ever. As mentioned, the cruise industry itself, through the Cruise Lines International Association, has set a commitment of 2050 to make sure that they are going to be at net zero emissions. But all these cruise lines are really moving forward on this themselves too. And another thing that came up too is in 2025, MSC Cruises actually has their second world-class ship, the MSC World America. Is going to be in service in the United States market by 2025, and it will be their first lines LNG, liquefied natural gas powered ship, and it's currently under construction too. And they're working on having their new cruise line, Explorer Journeys, also have LNG powered ships too, which is really, really fantastic news. But once again, there's so many things out there, and people don't realize that cruise lines themselves are really taking very, very strong initiatives to make sure that they're not polluting the waters, erasing the use of plastic straws. They started doing that a couple years ago, and also being more air efficient, whatever. But also with the LNG, that's really a big focus on every cruise line out there now. And I really, really commend all of them for doing this too. Mark, did you have any questions for me about this at all that comes to mind?
That was a lot of Hold on one second. I was trying to think of some questions that might be
Okay,
on my mind. And one
sure.
of the questions that was on my mind was definitely about this use of foundations and the foundations that are out there and how they're doing a lot of positive things in that space. I'd love to hear your thoughts around that and how the cruises are doing a lot with these kind of things in that space. Because I did not even think about cruises and cruise ships as being foundation leaders. I know that there are definitely foundations tied to sports and foundations tied to a number of other things, but I guess I hadn't really thought about foundations from the standpoint of those things that are in the cruise industry. And I think that there might be some foundations associated with things like the airplanes and things along those lines, but they're not things that I had really been thinking about. So I'd love to hear some more thoughts around that and just in that space and all along those lines, because that's not anything that I had really heard a lot of things going on with foundations. But as I recall from our last episode, and actually our last two episodes, there was that more smaller cruise line that was actually trying to get some of the college kids into the work program. So I guess that's some of the kind of work
Oh,
that the
yes.
foundations would
Yes.
be doing as well. But definitely,
Yes.
if you can just talk about any other foundations that you may have learned about, because I know a lot of times people are looking for foundations, and I don't know what a cruise foundation would be all about. But you did mention that there is a foundation associated with that particular cruise line, and I may have some commercials from MSC. But if you can just talk
Right.
about other cruises that might have foundations associated with them.
Right. That's a good question because one thing too with, the MSC group, they're still family owned and the third largest growing cruise line in the world. But what's really nice too is they got different divisions, okay? And what they do is, in addition to MSC Cruises, plus their container shipping company, also they're going to be launching their Explorer Journeys in 2023. It's really focusing on the ocean experience. Small ships, no more than 200 guests on board each of their ships. They've got 4 different ships going to be building. Those are going to be LNG operated too, which is great. But also, one thing that people are not aware of with MSC, they actually have an MSC Foundation themselves. And where it came into play too is they've got this beautiful private out island in the Bahamas, Ocean Cay MSC Marine Reserve. I think I mentioned a little bit about this last time, a previous episode, but with their Ocean Cay MSC Marine Reserve, it was actually an island in the Bahamas that had been a former manufacturing plant, and the manufacturing plant left. But what happened was the island was devastated. It's maybe 60 miles away from the U.S., but what they did was Pier Francesco Vago and his other family members negotiated something with the Bahamian government to lease an island for 100 years. They leased an island for $100 million that they invested themselves through their nonprofit foundation. Okay. Then what they did was they had to tow away more than 1,500 gross tons of scrap metal that was left on the island. The marine life was dead. The trees were dead. It was a disaster. What they did was they actually spent $400 million to really revitalize that island, bring back marine life. And they had to plant like 75,000 trees. They towed away the scrap metal. What they've been doing too is they actually was at the island for a christening naming cruise last year of their newest ship. What they did was, first they were there. We sailed out on Wednesday afternoon from Miami, got down to the island on that next morning. What they did was they actually did a sand cutting event too in the afternoon. So what they're doing is they're working on building a marine land because they're working on ways to kind of rebuild coral. Because with coral, that's going to actually rebuild the marine life too, which is great. Then later in the evening, they actually christened the ship on board the ship too. With Sophia Loren, she always christens their ships.
Right.
And then and that was really nice too is we were docked there. So in the evening, they had different fun things to do off the island if you want to go back on the out island. And they had a light show, which is really great. It was just wonderful what they did too is because you don't think about cruise lines doing this, but their MSC Foundation actually worked really hard to do this. But for them to spend $500 million is amazing.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, and that is truly amazing. And all in that space, I'm going to bring up a little bit of their commercials because we definitely have some that are available. So I've definitely got at least one or two. So I'm going to bring up one or two of those as well as one that we've talked about before that I'd love to hear you talk about. So I'm going to bring up one from MSC. And of course, we got the one that we played in before about Thrill Island and what they're all about and all in that space. But if you don't mind, we're going to take at least a little
Yes.
bit of a commercial break so we can hear from both MSC and Thrill Island. So we'll start off with MSC, a long one about Thrill Island, and then we'll come back with another one from MSC as well.
Right.
We kind of have what we call a thrill-o-meter, and on the thrill-o-meter, we wanted to make sure we took it all the way. So on Thrill Island, it's really our maxed out version of what we could do from a thrill perspective on a ship.
We wanted to make sure we were offering a place for every member of the family. So as we started seeing more and more excitement for a lot of our thrilling experiences, we said that's what our guests are after. Let's offer something that is really for the bold, for the brave, for the fearless, and experience something that they've never been able to do anywhere else.
The whole notion behind Thrill Island is it's this lost island, and you'll see distressed wood everywhere tossed aside. You'll see a sunken boat, and you will see the Category 6 water park, which is 6 amazing water slides. They're really adrenaline pumping thrill.
Thrill Island is what it is. Thrill at every single turn. We have some of the longest, tallest, fastest slides in the world on board Icon of the Seas, and it's just going to be an incredible experience. So no matter what your age, you can have a great time on Thrill Island.
This will be the largest and the first true water park of its kind ever offered at sea. The first time ever we are introducing family rafts. You can actually completely boomerang off of a lotus leaf wall that is overlooking the ocean. Those are the first and the longest raft slides at sea. We also have the first free fall slide, which is called the pressure drop, and that is where you will have to gain the courage to push yourself off the edge. We also have dueling mat racers where you can race your friends and see who lands to the finish line first. And then we have the tallest water slide at sea, which is our frightening bolt. You will stand in a capsule and the floor will completely drop below you.
Crown's Edge will truly be a bit of a piece de resistance for Icon. It is taking the ground and anchor that we have today, and it is allowing guests to harness themselves on it. You will catapult across the different ropes course, walk across the crown, and then there will be a bit of a surprise where all of a sudden the floor below you is no longer. And the floor will break and you will glide back to safety.
We will have all of our favorites in Thrill Island, the Flow Rider, Rock Wall, our sports deck, also great food and beverage.
Thrill Island is the ultimate manifestation of Royal Caribbean International saying, we love that our guests play up adventure on vacation, and we've given you all of these thrill activities in one neighborhood so that you can really become that adrenaline junkie in the back of our ship there on Thrill Island.
That's exciting because once again, so many different wonderful things going on in the cruise industry, but with MSC Cruises, as mentioned, their Seascape, which they just shared a little bit more, is going to be actually coming overseas. And then she'll actually be coming to New York first. And I'm actually going to be at the naming ceremony, which is really exciting. And then she'll start doing cruises too. But once again, it goes back to with MSC Cruises, they're actually really building more as far as sailing from U.S. ports. Obviously, their base has always been more of Europe, whatever. They do sail in different places across the world too, which is great. But once again, they're doing some phenomenal things, as are other cruise lines as far as sustainability. And the fun thing about Icon of the Seas, because they made that big announcement finally, but it's bringing a lot of interest. It's really accommodating more of the younger families, which is great. But once again, if you think about everything they're offering, Thrill Island, which they mentioned, sounds actually very, very exciting. That's one area. And they've also got Hideaway. Okay. Another is their Crown's Nest, Surfside, the Aquadome, and pools, of course. What I think is kind of fun is they've got this one pool that's actually going to be not based, it's going to be like over, which is, how do I explain that? Let me think about that way to kind of explain it. It's just kind of interesting what they're doing with different pools. Let me look here for a minute. Right, but it's the first, here we go, the first actually suspended infinity pool. No other cruise line has that at all, but this is going to be first on Icon of the Seas, Royal Caribbean. And like I said, it's kind of brag-worthy, but sounds really exciting when you think about the first suspended infinity pool at sea. Yes. And there's going to be a terraced lounge area, and it's going to keep positive vibes going too. But once again, record-breaking water slides. Okay. The largest water park, of course, at sea. But different categories and different things for people to explore, you know. So you're a little bit too scared about doing certain things. There's still some phenomenal things you're going to be able to do on Icon of the Seas. She's going to be actually arriving in 2024. And the Aquadome is where they're going to have world-class performers do superhuman stunts. And well, they're going to have different dining options too. And this really fantastic chic lounge sports that really kind of elevate the whole experience too. And as mentioned, different pools, but with the Icon of the Seas, it's got 7 different phenomenal areas too. And you don't think about that on ships. Obviously, it's going to be their largest ship ever. But once again, with these different areas to explore, it doesn't mean that you're going to feel like it's too overwhelming, because once again, you can kind of pick and choose what you really want to do and, of course, experience. Yes. And once again, it goes back to they've got, something fun too I ran across with, it's more the pool situation too, but once again, Icon of the Seas is actually going to have an all-you-can-eat swim buffet of pools, which is great, you know. They've got 7 different pools plus 9 different whirlpools, and they all have really beautiful ocean views. And like as mentioned, the Hideaway is actually the first suspended infinity pool at sea. And like I said, Cloud 17 is actually their adults only poolside oasis. And they've got this lime and coconut bar spanning different levels, which is great. And you can actually, if you want to, dive in and order a drink at their largest swim-up bar at sea called Swim and Tonic, which sounds really, really fun, I think, too, if you think about it. Because you don't really see that on cruise ships. Sometimes you've seen that at different resorts throughout the Caribbean, but to actually have that on board a ship, I think that's really kind of exciting, too. Also, with, like I said, really, they're really trying to bring a new dimension to the vacation experience, really. And like I said, having the largest water park at sea, the Crown's Edge, which is suspended high above the ocean. And like I said, they've got their Surfside, which is all ages, for another neighborhood for people to enjoy too, and family fun too. But once again, yes, this is going to be taking the cruise experience to a new level. But once again, it really is good fit for younger families too. If they want to go, that's fine, but also for other people too. So keep that in mind too. James, any questions about that you could think of?
Yeah, but, like I said, used the wrong name, but that's all right. I knew who you were talking about because she said James. I'm like, who's James?
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
I knew what you meant and everything, but I was just teasing and
Sorry.
all along those lines.
No, I was thinking about the person who was a chairman of this conference was at last weekend. His name is James. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Sorry.
And that's actually my dad's name, so that's perfectly fine. So
family name, right?
really that's my dad's name, and all along those lines. I was wondering that when you went cruising they are always talking about the amazing food that exists in cruise industries and all along those lines. So I've actually got something that's going to talk about how they do that, because it's very hard and they got to feed all these people. It's like feeding multiple colleges together and everything. And we know that colleges have a hard enough time feeding their folks and all along those lines. Well, maybe it's not as many people as on a college campus, but it's still quite a few people on a cruise and all in that space. And then if you think about the amount of cruises that go out in the world and all of that, it might be like feeding a whole country, or like definitely a lot of people and all in that space. But as I bring up another one of those fantastic specials like we did about the performers, but this is about the cooking and all of that, I'd love to hear some of your food experiences, because I know on the one cruise I went, that food was exquisite, very good. I was definitely enjoying it and all along those lines. But I'd love to hear your food experiences, as you have done many more cruises than I have. And of course, you document the cruise industry. So tell me about these fantastic food experiences you have, and then we'll play the video, which is now ready. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about your food experiences.
They're phenomenal. I mean, the good thing is there's so many choices out there too. I mean, you've got, for instance, it depends on the cruise line too. For instance, I know when I mentioned something about Virgin Voyages, it's adults only, 18 years and older.
Right.
They don't have the big main dining rooms. They've got different restaurants, very small, with great ambiance. I had a chance to dine at one when I toured the ship for 7 hours last year. But the point is, it kind of fits what you're interested in too, because once again, different choices out there. Okay, some cruise lines do have some other special restaurants you pay extra for it too, but once again, you can splurge on that maybe once during the cruise or twice. It's really good too. But one thing that's kind of fun too is one of the executive chefs I've got to know, he's with Hanna American Line, is their chief culinary expert. His name is Rudy Seidemann.
Okay.
And he's actually from Europe, and I have talked to him several times. In fact, he was working on a newest book, and he wanted me to go through it for some ideas too. But the point is, he got into the chef angle when he was very young. But the point is, with his food, it's fantastic. He actually started working with Hanna American Line. Plus, what they did was expanded. He's got his Saldemar on board Hanna American Line. It's his own, restaurant. They also have it on a couple other ships that are part of other cruise lines that are part of the Carnival Corporation. But I always tell people that Rudy's cuisine is just so exquisite as far as how it's laid out. It's almost too pretty to eat. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. I can't speak more highly of him, because he did this one book with pictures of his cuisine. It was just fantastic. And he gave him out for free, signed him when I was on board one of their ships during this cruise conference too. But it's phenomenal. I mean, his cuisine is just unbelievable. And the thing is, he's really big as far as videos and showing what they do. But once again, he really brings a new dimension, because years ago when cruising really started, there were some choices. It wasn't bad, believe me. I mean, the food is always very good. But what they did was, one cruise that really got into hiring an executive chef to really kind of turn things around was actually Celebrity Cruises.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And they actually worked with Michel Roux.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a top Michelin chef over in Great Britain, actually. And then they had him be their culinary chef over everything. It really brought a new dimension to cuisine. But once again, cruise lines have done that too now. They've all brought in their own executive chefs. But like I said, Rudy Seidemann comes to mind because his food is just so gorgeous as far as how it's laid out. It's like too pretty to eat, but it's still phenomenal.
It sounds like it's phenomenal. So let's check out a little bit about from the Business Insiders and some of their fine things about how they deal with that amazing food that is on a cruise line. So this is actually a long video, but let's check it out and see what they've got to say about this part of the cruise industry.
Every week, over 6,600 people vacation aboard the world's largest cruise ship. And all those people need to eat 3, 4, 8 times a day.
You have to calculate that it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus snacks, plus at night, plus all 24-hour food all around. And that never stops.
Ship kitchens run 24/7, manned by a culinary team of more than 1,000 people. They dish out over 30,000 meals every single day. And they do it all from compact kitchens on a rocking ship. So how does all this food make it to the plate? We'll start on the loading dock on a Saturday. This is turnaround day, when all new food is delivered to Deck 2.
This is basically a place that you would not like to be on turnaround day when we are loading. It's busy, super busy.
That's Jarrett. He orders food for the ship's 23 different restaurants. Every week, Jarrett's got a $1 million shopping budget. All of that is just for 7 days of food. Sometimes Jarrett will tweak his orders based on who's coming aboard. More kids means more chicken fingers.
That's how the operation runs. So we monitor it on a daily basis, what has been used, what has not been used, and then we adjust our orders accordingly. But by and large, being in Miami, having the same number of people, it's almost the same every cruise.
On turnaround day, 30 trucks arrive at Miami Port. They're carrying 500 pallets worth of inventory, and all that has to be loaded onto the ship by 4 p.m.
Any delay in our operation can hamper the sail away of the ship, which is again a big logistic requirement.
Over 600,000 pounds of food and drinks are provisioned for just 1 week of sailing. Once on board, everything is moved along the ship's secret highway. This is I-95, and it runs the entire length of the ship, on Deck 2.
We separate all the stores to the different locations that they are supposed to go. We have about 20 different storerooms divided into freezers, fridges, walk-in fridges, and dry stores.
Seafood, meat, vegetables, and fruit are all divided and stored in separate fridges.
If you come towards the end of the cruise, this box will be almost empty with a few fruits that are needed for 2 more days, which we keep as backup stock.
There are also 6 freezers. That's where the 700 pounds of ice cream that'll be eaten each week are stored. Dry goods are stored down on Deck 1.
Full of spices, full of chocolate in this storeroom, coffee. It's nice to be in this storeroom.
An elevator gets the food downstairs. Jarrett's team checks all of the food for quality control every day. If produce is ripening faster than expected, they try to work it into another meal. For example, overripe broccoli could go into broccoli cheddar soup instead of being tossed. Once inventory is stored, restaurants on upper decks put in food orders with Jarrett. Chefs will come downstairs, pick up their order, and cart it away to be cooked. That's where this guy comes in.
Any food on board this beautiful ship, anything you eat it, is my responsibility. Wherever you have beautiful potato fry, it's mine. Rice is mine. Pate is mine. Pastry is mine. Salad, shrimp, wherever you eat it, it's my responsibility.
Rijo's team of 280 chefs run the kitchens 24/7. Each chef works 10 to 12-hour days. Contracts typically last 4 months without a single day off.
Some of the people start working for 8 o'clock in the morning, all the way to 2 o'clock, take a break, come back again 5 o'clock, finish by 9:30. Then another group start working 10 o'clock in the night, all the way to 10 o'clock in the morning. So we cover day and night productions.
Chefs on board cook up nearly 100 different menus every week. All the menus are developed at Royal Caribbean's Miami headquarters. And every week, chefs stick to the same rotation of menus, cooking up everything from racks of lamb to hand-rolled sushi. The food has to be diverse to match Symphony of the Sea's international passengers, vacationing at all kinds of price points.
We try to please everybody and to make sure that everybody find what you're looking for.
All the cooking happens in 36 kitchens, or galleys as they're called on a ship. There are 12 specialty restaurants on board, costing up to $50 a person. And each of those restaurants has its own small galley. In those tight quarters, chefs crank out the same menu every day. At Jamie's Italian, it's fresh pasta. At Hooked, it's over 2,000 oysters, shucked per cruise. But the largest amount of food is reserved for the main dining room, which spans 3 decks and serves up to 6,000 people a night. Eating here is included in your ticket. Before food heads up to the main galleys, it starts in one of the prep kitchens, off I-95. There's a butcher shop.
Butcher, good morning. Yes, sir. These are the gentlemen looking after all the meat cuts.
The butcher goes through about 15,000 pounds of beef and 9,700 pounds of chicken each week. There's also a veggie cutting room and a fish thawing box. Lobster is the most popular dish in main dining. The ship goes through about 2,100 pounds of lobster tails every week. Finally, the food heads upstairs to the main galley. The ship's biggest kitchen is broken down by categories: desserts, bread, cold food, and hot food. In dessert, chefs whip up cakes, chocolates, and 100 different types of pastries. Over in the bread bakery, they make 40 different kinds of bread from all over the world, all from scratch. But the real hustle comes just before the dinner rush. 6,000 hungry passengers in the main dining room. Remember Rijo? Before dinner prep starts, he has to approve all the dishes.
Good afternoon. Good.
Rijo tries each dish and gives his critiques.
We're going to put a little bit more Pernod, a little bit more Gale, a little bit more herbs. Very, very good. So this is what aioli. Aioli, we need to put a little bit more for today. Huh? You can see, Chef, how we look. Huh? Take a note, don't forget. That's what we're talking about. Right? Beautiful, beautiful. We don't have any challenge, so we're ready to go. Chef, thank you so much. And thank you so much. And look forward to have a beautiful night tonight. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Chefs take his notes and get cooking. Chefs can see a tally of each dish ordered up on screens. The system also keeps track of how much inventory is used. In the cold room, salads and appetizers like carpaccio come together. In the hot room, chefs dish out soups, sauces, sides, and mains.
We have the two kinds of chefs. Chefs working here on the line, which is close to me, plating up, and chefs on the stove cooking. So everything we do is in batch cooking. So basically, we grill a steak there, we pass it over to the pass. The person on the pass is plating it up to the requested temperature. That means always that the guests are getting fresh food, and from an operational point, we don't have any overproduction.
Finally, waiters deliver those dishes to hungry passengers out in main dining. Between the chefs, inventory crew, waiters, and dishwashers, it takes a team of 1,085 people to keep this massive operation going. Together, they cook nearly 11 million meals each year, and they're doing it all on a moving ship.
The ship is rocking, then all the equipment is built to the ship rocking. Then in whatever moment, maybe the ship move, somebody don't put one brake in one trolley, and you see the trolley flying away. And happen. That's why all the cooks always be the attention with that.
But if crew members are doing their job right, passengers won't even know any of it's happening. They'll just get back to eating their 8th meal of the day.
That was fantastic. And I've actually had the pleasure of experiencing and seeing one of the culinary centers on Princess Cruises. They did a special dinner and you pay for it. Once again, that was like the back of the kitchen type thing. And we went through that first, went through different areas, which is fantastic to see how they're preparing different foods. And then we finally finished with that tour. The second part was actually sitting at a table in the dining room. We were actually served different things that we'd seen prepared too, which is fantastic. But once again, the hours and efforts that these chefs go through to really get the food done properly is just unbelievable. It really is an art in itself. And once again, they really have it down to a science. They work very hard, but once again, you don't think about them having different kitchens. They do, because, for instance, with their different restaurants, depending what's on board, they have special kitchens for those restaurants too. And it's unbelievable what they actually can do and serve, because once again, the food is just really, really, really phenomenal. It really is. And they work with high-end chefs. As mentioned, I mentioned a bit about Rudy Sadaman. And as mentioned before, he actually really has brought cuisine with Han American Line, who he works for, but also their chief culinary chef there. Also, he's got different areas of expertise in culinary and also hospitality. He actually has a passion for people and a passion for food. He was a young cook in Austria and then started working for different people in cruise lines. Once again, he really is the agent of change when it comes to the culinary experience. And as mentioned, I've had the pleasure of dining with his food. It's just phenomenal in his different restaurants, and also keep in touch with him too, because he's just such an icon when it comes to the cuisine. As mentioned, Han American Line, who he works for, but also with Han American Line, they're owned by the Carnival Corporation, which has different cruise lines, including Princess Cruises. He has one of his restaurants on Princess Cruises too, as well as Carnival Cruise Lines too. But once again, it's just amazing to see how these chefs pulled everything together to make it really, really not just extraordinary as far as the cuisine, but just the presentation alone is unbelievable. And like I said, they're cooking. The example that was in that video we saw actually was with Royal Caribbean, and they're serving food for 6,000 guests per day. That is definitely an art in itself. and people don't realize the efforts that go into it. But also, one thing's kind of fun too is you'll see different cruise lines that really embrace purchasing natural ingredients depending on the areas they're going to. One thing I've seen that too is with the river cruise lines over in Europe. Yes, they sail on the rivers, but they do have some things that they actually purchase over there that are like really, really natural types of cuisine. Also, we mentioned something about American Queen Voyages, and they are U.S. based, and they just celebrated their 10th anniversary. What they do is they have worked with different chefs and things. One that I actually had a chance to interview once when she first started working with them is Chef Regina Charbonneau, and she's amazing. She's from the U.S., of course, too, but she has actually been on some of their different sailings and really provided some guidance, too, on the cuisine, too, which is phenomenal. But once again, it goes back to you have so many choices available to you. And if you want to have some experiences with maybe dining at some of the extra restaurants, you pay a little bit more. The point is you can do that once or twice if you want to, but the cuisine on board the ships, as far as their main dining rooms, their buffets, are really still good choices too. And it just kind of depends on what your choice is. But there's so many options out there now more than ever. I think it's definitely good to think about as far as Good Ship Happens, because once again, things like that you don't think about. You know, when you go to maybe a hotel, okay, maybe if you're going out to Vegas, well, what do you pay for your restaurants? A lot of money. But on cruise ships, as mentioned, the main dining options are available. And of course, there's some cruise lines that are all inclusive and they don't charge you anything for specialty restaurants. You've got a lot of specialty restaurant choices too. A good example, of course, is with the new upcoming Explorer Journeys. They're still working on the cuisine too. They're coming out next year, but they've got 4 or 5 different ships building right now, Explorer 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they're really focusing on offering that high experience level with no surcharges involved. Everything's included. But once again, you've got a lot of choices out there. So it kind of goes back to, think about what you're looking for too. And you've got options. And like I said, there are just great options out there depending on where you want to cruise to. If you want to stick within the U.S., we've got American Cruise Lines, which is great. Also, we've got American Queen Voyages, which is fantastic. They also offer some expedition types of sailings too, with their 3 smaller ships that they actually purchased from the cruise line in 2019. Once again, too, is we've got so many different choices as far as European river cruising. Got some great companies out there too. Plus, also, if you think about other cruise lines that are well known, Princess Cruises, Royal Caribbean, of course, yes, and Carnival. Holland America Line is another one, but they've got great options. Costa Cruises is another one. And then, of course, MSC Cruises too. But there's so many options out there as far as food cuisine. You'll never be lost to find something really fantastic to think about too. Any other questions that you can think of, Mark, that might be good to kind of intertwine as far as the dining experience?
Well, you mentioned the dining experience. You also mentioned that cruise ship that is doing amazing things with the students and all of that. And I do have that clip that we can play one more time. But I did find out one about another cruise foundation and apparently some of their efforts in sustainability and all in that space. So I think I'll play the one first with the kids, and then we'll also play the one with sustainability. And then we'll come back and have some more conversation as we get ready to wrap up this particular edition. But let's check out what they're saying about the student effort with that particular smaller cruise. And then we'll also hear about another foundation, not the one that you initially mentioned, but another foundation that is doing some work in the sustainability field.
What's up, everybody? It's Trey Tipton here.
Hi, I'm William Jeffers.
Hi, my name is Lauren Wasselson.
Hi, my name is Alex Jaksic.
And we're on the American Queen boat in Pittsburgh, PA. And we're here to explore all the job opportunities on this beautiful boat. Come check it out with us.
Welcome aboard. This is the Grand Saloon.
This is our main performance space on board the American Queen. We do offer a wide variety of things. We've got some very talented entertainers on board. Many of us have degrees in vocal performance or theater, and we're very fortunate to have them on board the American Queen.
Do I have any other talents? I could do poetry.
I was actually a dancer for 15 years of my life. Did ballet, jazz, hip-hop, lyrical, modern, contemporary, point, like all that.
One of my hidden talents, I would say I could sing a little bit. You don't want to hear me though.
I played the saxophone for 6 years, juggle, or solve Rubik's Cube in under 40 seconds.
This is the J.W. White dining room. The big grand evening event is dinner. We have 4 courses, wine service, dessert service. We have 12 waiters on board, 8 food and beverage servers, or back waiters as we call them. I have 2 assistants who are on the floor, and we try to coordinate all the needs and wants of all of our guests.
I think it's pretty cool that you can be a chef on an amazing cruise like this and also travel the world.
You want to work in the engine room and you want to work unlicensed, you don't need any endorsement. Some maintenance background is helpful. We have 4 watch engineers and 2 firemen, 2 oilers on watch.
There's always at least 2 of us on board, what they call a front watch and a back watch. So there's a pilot that works at night as well. So 24 hours a day, there's a qualified pilot and a captain and one of the mates up here in the pilot house.
It's a very complicated job. It's very interesting though. You would never see me do it because I don't want to mess things up. But I think the one thing that I took away from this is that it's easier to drive at night, and many people wouldn't assume that, but I think that was a very, very interesting point that I took away.
Hello, I'm Guy Young, President and CEO of Uniworld Boutique River Cruises. As a proud member of the Travel Corporation family of travel brands, Uniworld is part of a joint initiative called Tread Right. We have a strong tradition of supporting the places we visit, and Tread Right supports us in this work. As a travel business, we feel this is our responsibility. For the past 2 years, we have been involved in a sustainable river cruising project. We have worked closely with Tread Right and the sustainable tourism charity, the Travel Foundation, to better understand and manage the environmental impact of our river cruise ships. As an award-winning boutique luxury cruise line, we understand that the strict standards we maintain will ensure the satisfaction of our guests. Every year we raise the bar on standards for environmental performance, an issue the cruising industry has not traditionally given the attention it deserves. Our efforts working with the Travel Foundation seek to change that.
Hello, I'm Sue Hurdle, CEO of the Travel Foundation. The Travel Foundation is a charity that works with the travel sector to improve the sustainability of tourism, protecting the future viability of the industry, improving customer experience, and of course benefiting the people and places that we love to visit. To date, the Travel Foundation has audited Uniworld ships on water and energy use and waste production, and a set of recommendations have been developed to help achieve measurable reductions in these areas. The Travel Foundation will use the results of the project to develop a sustainable river cruising pack that will be made available alongside its wide range of other online tools for the benefit of the wider industry. As the river cruising industry continues to grow and develop, this tool will provide much needed guidance so that development happens with the best possible outcome, helping to ensure a bright and profitable future for the sector.
Europe's incredible cities are what compels so many travelers to visit the continent year after year. They inspire our unique travel itineraries and drive us to continue to protect these places so our customers, their families, and the people who call them home may continue to enjoy them for generations to come.
We thank Uniworld for its progressive stance on these issues and for supporting our work. And we hope very much that this will inspire other companies to tackle the sustainability issue and find out how the Travel Foundation can help them to help themselves.
Working with the Travel Foundation ensures we will not only improve our operations, but that together we will have an impact on the tourism industry at large. The results of Uniworld's sustainable initiatives on the rivers of Europe and Egypt will facilitate the creation of tools and standards to benefit the entire river cruise sector.
That's just another wonderful example. And I actually just happened to see Guy Young at the International Travel Conference on Friday. He actually has moved up, by the way. He's now their Chief Engagement Officer, but with the Travel Corporation, they're a fantastic company. They own different companies, including, of course, Uniworld Boutique River Cruise Collection, and they do some phenomenal things. Once again, that was a great angle that people maybe are not aware of too, because once again, all these travel companies and cruise lines are really working very hard to make sure things are very sustainable. In fact, that was actually another discussion after they did that keynote interview with Pier Francesco Vago. They actually did at the International Travel Conference on Friday, they did another special panel, and they had different people on that panel, including, of course, Pier Francesco Vago. They had someone from the Travel Corporation too, which is great, but just people like that too, which is great, because once again, they're doing so many wonderful things as far as sustainability more than ever that people are not aware of. And once again, with this foundation, I think that's really fantastic with the Travel Foundation. Definitely need to look into that a bit more and bring up more about them too in the future. So that's a great concept to think about too, because once again, with travel, including the cruise industry, they really are taking wonderful efforts to move forward on making sure things are sustainable and continue on in different ways too. Mark, do you have any questions about that? I think that was a great segue.
No, glad to do that segue and all along those lines. But definitely, you're doing a fantastic job, and definitely looking forward to this amazing show. You're doing a great job because, of course, good ships do happen and all along those lines. And I've got some of our older commercials that I was going to bring up, so I'm going to bring those up right now. And then I might have some more in-depth questions after we see some of those.
People love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal. They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin. Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.
Hi, I'm Holland America Line's brand ambassador Seth Wayne, and welcome aboard our newest Pinnacle class ship and the newest flagship of the fleet, Rotterdam. I can't wait to take you all around this gorgeous ship in less than 90 seconds, so let's take a look. The layout of our new ship is nearly identical to her sisters, the Koningsdam and New Statendam. But amid her millions of dollars of art on board, there's certainly a feel of the past, along with plenty of views into the future. First stop, everyone's favorite, the Grand Dutch Cafe, right off the sweeping views of the atrium. Grand Dutch Cafe, located on Deck 3, is the perfect spot to grab a great cup of coffee and your favorite Dutch treats. You asked and we delivered. The library returns to Rotterdam with a modern look and plenty of books to choose from. The World Stage and its 270-degree wraparound LED screens are back, featuring our award-winning shows and lectures at sea. Live music is the highlight of Music Walk on Deck 2. You'll find classical favorites in Lincoln Center Stage, to a nighttime full of soul from B.B. King's Blues Club. There's also Billboard On Board and Rolling Stone Rock Room, so truly something for everyone. Another new feature on Rotterdam is Half Moon Bar, a tribute to our rich history and cocktails. And there's a new game room in the popular Exploration Central Discovery Center. You'll enjoy our Culinary Council's creations in the dining room that spans 2 decks, plus dive-in burgers, New York pizza and deli, gelato, and our new juice bar. There's also Pinnacle Grill, Rudy Seldemeyer, Canaletto, Tamarind, and Nami Sushi. Rotterdam has it all. We can't wait to welcome you on board.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was a
Rotterdam actually did a special transatlantic cruising. She just actually docked in New York.
Oh, wow. She just docked and everything.
October 26th. She departed from the Netherlands on October 15th. And this was actually a kind of a commemorative type of sailing because with Holland America Line, they actually launched nearly 150 years ago. Yes.
Wow.
They're doing some special anniversary things for the next year. And the Rotterdam was actually their very, very first ship years ago. Mm-hmm. And their newest Rotterdam, the one that he actually was showcasing for us too, actually debuted in late 2021. It's their newest ship. What they do is they actually rename their ships a lot of times after previous ships. So what they do is they decided to have their Rotterdam sail on a special cruise departing October 15th from the Netherlands across the Atlantic Ocean. And then she docked in New York City. She just arrived on October 26th, which is fantastic. And just different things that she's doing too. And it's a year-long celebration. And people that might have missed going on the Rotterdam special sailing October 15th, well, you know what? They're actually going to be doing a duplicate sailing on that too. The Rotterdam will be sailing from New York City in April of 2023, and then go across the ocean, and she will actually then arrive in the Netherlands on her actual anniversary, which is fantastic. But just great things.
Amazing. So she's actually going to land in her
original, yes,
on her anniversary and all
yes,
on
her 150th birthday. And I'm sure they'll do a lot of singing happy birthday on the ship too. But
I'm sure they will, and I'm sure the dignitaries of that particular region of the world will be out there celebrating with her and all along those lines. I'm sure it'll be just one big party and all in that space. So it should be amazing. It should be truly fun. And I can't wait to hear more about it as we get closer to it and all along those lines. But definitely, it's just amazing some of these things that we don't know about ships. Like I said, I would never thought about how there's these hidden departments and hidden things that are going on in ships, like where we learned that some of the crew live and where some of the performers live, and definitely a whole I won't even call it a grocery store, but a whole food operation that's going on in the ships as well. Because when they were talking about that $1 million budget and the amount of food that they have to put out there and a number of other things like that, when you get on the ship, you're oftentimes enjoying what's going on, but you're not thinking about how it all transpires and all along those lines. Because like I told you before, I know that a lot of times the art shows are also a big part of cruises and all along those lines. And I imagine that there's probably a whole conversation about how that goes and happens as well. Because I do know that in addition to the performance artists that are there, there's a lot of things that are being sold in terms of art. Like I know that there is a lot of Kincaid type art and other things that take places. And I understand that in some cruises, there are even actual art classes. So who knows, you might go on a cruise and you may actually even wind up just like you would at a arts council in some of our cities and stuff like that, taking a arts class, because apparently there is one that I'm seeing called the Artist Loft aboard Oceana's Marina and Riviera. Is a space where aspiring artists can hone their skills and test their craft at sea. So it's almost like a artist cruise, but like one of those kind of residencies and things along those lines. So talented instructors will serve as an artist in residence. So that is something that is going on that exists as well. And I had not heard about that until I was just reading about it and all in that space. And like I said, I do know that Park West Gallery, oftentimes, because that's the one that I saw going on and everything, will have their art auctions on cruise ships. And of course, they do them online as well. So definitely that is something that goes on regularly. So everything from appreciation courses to actually getting some high-end art from art auctions. And apparently there is a cruise that American Cruise Lines is doing that is called the Art Immersion Cruise. Enjoy painting cruises and workshops with our onboard artists throughout your journey. And onboard artists in the residence will offer step-by-step watercolor and mixed media instructions to budding artists as well as seasoned professionals. So, and that looks like that is going from, looks like it's out of maybe Maryland or something like that. So definitely, it's just fascinating, the art aspect as well that goes on the cruises. But I just wondered if you had any take on any of these kind of things, or if you've ever been on a cruise that featured either art classes or featured art auctions that you participated in on your cruise and all along those lines.
I know cruise lines, they do partner with different companies. They do art auctions. I had not really done that myself, but I actually had a business friend actually worked. She actually worked for a company that did that. And then she actually got up she worked on the ship for a long time. Then she made a leap and worked for a couple of different travel agency companies. And then she actually came into owning a travel, kind of like a consortium, but what they do is they help travel advisors grow their businesses. And she's really phenomenal there. She's got a partner. They've really grown it like crazy. But her first job was actually working on a cruise ship, but with an art area too, which is great.
In fact, working with the art area and that whole art community that can also take place on the cruise as well. Because like you said, that can be a fascinating part of the cruise and all along those lines that people don't oftentimes think about, and all in that line. And definitely that can take place in a cruise as well. So it's always fascinating when you get these unique things that happen on cruises that we're not oftentimes expecting and that we are surprised by, and all along those lines. So like I said, a cruise, it sounds to me like it's almost like a mini, not just a vacation, but also like a microcosm of society. That's the word I was looking for, a microcosm of what goes on in regular society. And it just kind of gives it to you from a cruise perspective, as opposed to being in a major city or in a country town or something like that. But it's actually taking place on the ocean and all in that space. So it's always fascinating, these kind of things that take place that we're not oftentimes expecting and that actually thoroughly surprise us when they happen and when we are surprised by their thrills that go on. And we talked about the thrill of that lovely roller coaster. I told you I'm a little bit afraid of some of those,
Right.
some of
Yes.
those things that are taking place. And I'm like, that looks a little slippery. That looks a little wet. I'm already on the ocean. If I fall into the ocean, I don't know how to swim. I don't know where the lifeboat is.
Right.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster. So yours truly might not be doing that unless I get talked into it or find out that it is more safer than I think it is. But yeah, that's a little bit on the scary side and all in that space. But you know,
Yes.
people might be a little bit more braver and bolder than I actually am. And maybe you got that kind of boldness and all in that space. So would you be jumping on those kind of trips? Or are you going to be like me? You're going to be avoiding them almost as if it was the plague or some of those other things that we don't like to be associated with. Or are you going to have that sense of adventure? And I do have a sense of adventure in some things, but I don't know that I would
Right.
have
Right.
that
Not
particular
everything, but the thing to me is so fascinating too is just flipping into something else too. It's amazing as far as the technology that they use when they're navigating their ships. I've had a chance myself to actually have been on several different cruise ship, the bridge tours.
Mhm.
And it's just absolutely fascinating how they actually navigate those ships. It's amazing. It's electronic, whatever, but just amazing what they do.
Oh, how the ships are actually maneuvered and how they actually get
Right.
the ships going out.
Right. It's amazing. I've had a chance to see the actual bridge on the Celebrity Apex, but some previous ships too. It was amazing to actually see that, you know, how they actually drive the ships because it's not just a little steering wheel. It's amazing. It's all technology. But once again, they've got it down to a science as far as the whole safety. It's amazing to see the whole bridge area. It's just unbelievable.
See, it's just amazing how they do that. And you're sitting there going like, wait a minute, this is just truly incredible and all along those lines. But like you said, they make it look mild and like it's nothing at all. And they definitely have some amazing forces in that way and all along those lines. And you're right. I mean, I know that it would be hard to maneuver and all in that space. And it's just amazing how they do that. And you're sitting there going like, wait a minute, how did you even pull that off? And how did you manage to do it at that particular time and all along those lines? So speaking of which, I think that as we wind down, and this was actually one of the longer shows and everything, but that's okay because I love having good conversations and all along those lines. So I was definitely going to bring up maybe just a little bit about the Park West Gallery people and things in that space. But, you know, I know you're going to have some more amazing shows, and a lot of people included on the network have been really impressed with the content that you have been bringing and all along those lines. And you actually mentioned one of these kind of ships and all in that space. So definitely we're going to see if we can't give folks a taste of what you are talking about and all along those lines. And then we'll get ready to get out of here shortly. But definitely, I think folks might be interested in some of the art stuff that I was talking about, as well as what you were talking about, which is how these fascinating ships are maneuvered and how they get around and all in that space. So definitely I'm going to see if I can't bring that up, hopefully for this particular episode, but if not, definitely for a future episode and all in that space, because definitely it is truly amazing how they get around and all that goes on in that space in their way that they get that ship maneuvered. But right now I'm going to just show a little bit about the artwork that goes on there in one of those art cruises and maybe a couple of the other commercials that we haven't got to. And I think I'll save that. Matter of fact, that's what we're going to do. We're going to save that for next week's show. So they give them a little bit of a taste and they can learn about the maneuvering of the ship on next week when we have the show on a week from this particular Friday and everything. So on November today is technically the 4th of November and everything. So on November the 11th, we will show them how the ships are maneuvered and all along those lines. So we'll show them on November the 11th how the ships are maneuvered. I'll be sure to get that one in and we'll just give them a tease on that. But right now, we'll give them a little bit about the art that goes on a gallery, and maybe I'll give them a tease about the art appreciation courses as well. So I'll get some of those for the next show, because we got to leave them with wanting some teasers and everything.
Yes.
Some teasers. So if it's all right with you, we're going to show a little bit about the Park West folks and what they do on the galleries, and some of the other cruise lines that we did not get to, including that lovely one that both me and you love with the kids, and how they're up at a certain airline because they don't get to go on the cruise and all in that space. So if that's good with you, that's how we'll close out this particular show. And I have thoroughly enjoyed being with you on this particular day.
Thank you. It's been wonderful too. Thank you.
No problem.
And remember, good ship happens.
All the time.
Yes.
I've never seen a sky so blue, and I've never felt a breeze so cool. Oh, it really is a good, good life, and all I wanna do is have a good, good time. Yeah, I'm feeling free. I finally found what I've been looking for. I'm feeling free, something I've never felt before. Oh, so free, it just keeps getting better. I'm feeling free, wish I could feel like this forever. I'm feeling free. Oh, 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 yeah. I'm feeling free.
Introducing the all-new Norwegian Viva. Our next stunning ship in a brand new class designed for you to live life to the fullest. Stay connected to the sea with experiences that bring you closer to the horizon. Stretch out, way out, in our most spacious accommodations to date. And look forward to first-rate service, so you can live it up every second. Live it up. Norwegian Viva, sailing 2023.
Thank you.